Okay.
Small machine is not very powerful.
Turn on. Everybody good with everything we talked about on Monday? Everybody's gonna kill it. It's gonna be great. Yes. Yes.
I have almost no memory of what happened on Monday.
Oh, Matthew, you stop it. You serious? Well, you can refresh him. This isn't working. Nothing's working. Oh, there we go. All right. So, strategic planning, we talked about why that's important, right? First chapter, you guys understood what it was all about to start the fact-finding process, establish a business profile, try to understand what a business's processes are. You understand why that's vital for developing an information system that's meant to suit the needs of that business, right? All right. So we understand that the fact-finding process is important. We're going to sort of build on that today. But as you're gathering that information, the next step is, of course, justifying whether or not the project in and of itself is necessary. And then if, yes, it's necessary, we're going to talk about what, define something as necessary. Then the next step is it feasible, right? And you're going to know that, again, by gathering more information and assessing that. And the final deliverable of a planning phase is going to be some form of a document that you're going to present to whoever it is you're reporting to. Again, if you're sort of a contracted individual that's coming into an organization to do this, that may be upper administration, it may be a president, say if we're talking about Beaufort Community College. If you are an IT manager within an organization, perhaps it would be the dean of the IT division. Of course, it's going to be different depending on the organizational structure. But just to put it in context, the deliverable for this initial planning phase would be that the analyst or the person in that capacity would come in, evaluate all these factors, put it in writing, give it to someone who has the capability to say go, and then once you get that go is when we can move into the next phase of the systems development life cycle. So we talked about why strategic planning is important for IT projects and why establishing a business strategy is really vital. We've talked on and on, or we've talked over and over again about planning tools. I told you guys that we don't really have, sadly, any kind of a case tool for you guys to really use on site, but I wanted to remind you again that the two tools we do have are Visio and Project. You will be required to use those in this class. Okay, so go ahead and, I might make time to migrate over to 117, or if you're over there and you have a canceled class again, just open up the programs and start to familiarize yourself with them. In chapter 3, next project, our next chapter for your case, you're going to actually have to use Microsoft Project. So you can either choose to download that from DreamSpark or make time to go over to 117 to get that done. Okay, and we'll hopefully make time in class to get over there and try to work on that as well. But, rather than just keeping up with all of this, again, if you were a professional, rather than keeping up with all of this in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, using some sort of a professional tool is going to help you stay more organized and, again, be able to create a deliverable or a document that's going to be readable and present the facts that are going to be necessary to make a decision on moving forward with a proposed IT system change. So a business case is all about justifying something, and when we said justifying something is not necessarily about establishing that something's right or wrong, but it's for giving the reasons why you're doing something or why you believe something, right? You need someone to understand why you need or want to do this. Not that it's just a desire, but that it's meant to meet a certain need. I lost my microphone. I was like, what is this? Okay, felt like I had a tail. So the business case should be comprehensive, easy to understand, should describe the project clearly. Again, you may come in and you may be talking to individuals and all they are going to tell you is, it just doesn't work. What we have just doesn't work. Does that really give you any information? Does that give you anything to go on?
No.
It's just bad. The website's just bad, right? It's frustrating.
Who's telling us this?
Yes. Your users are telling us this. Say you're coming in and it's not that you're using, and you're not building a new system from the ground up, but you're coming from a legacy or antiquated system, and when you're asking people, they know that you need to change, right? We need something new, we need something better. But when you ask them why, a lot of times people really haven't thought through. You see this all the time. I saw this all the time, especially in upper administration. People that are not in technology don't really understand what they need or why they need it. They just know they need something. And they know that mainly because they've been fielding complaints for probably way too long as to why something doesn't work effectively, right? Or it's not meeting the need. So an analyst, right, or someone in that capacity, their role is going to be to come in and again perform these fact-finding activities that we're going to talk about to try to understand better why a change in processes is necessary, okay? And again, because when it comes down to it, the bottom line is probably going to be a dollar amount, right? Which for anyone across the board typically is going to be painful and something that has to be justified, right? So we need to be able to justify creating or rebuilding a system by establishing what that business case should be. One of your tasks this week is going to ask you to look back at the fact statements, meaning what you know about the organization Personal Trainer Inc. Right? And you know a little bit based on what was presented in case 1, and you probably were able to make some assumptions as you sort of went through those few tasks. But what would you say, just from a base perspective, was their business case? Why were they interested in pursuing this new product?
Because they're expanding and they want more money.
Okay, there you go. Growth, right? Growth. So they're using an existing system, but they're growing as a business and they don't necessarily know, right, or they don't really feel as though what they're using can get them to that next level, okay? So at a base level, that's a justification, that's a business case, right, for going forward. Now an analyst is really going to get down into the weeds when we talk about feasibility, understanding really what the benefits would be. And then you're going to use, again, those facts to really justify or allow a manager to justify whether or not to take the next step in the development process. So you would ask questions, why are we doing this? What is the project about? How much will it cost, right? That's typically what it's going to come down to. How much will it cost and how long is it going to take? All right, so again, just making sure that we understand that the business case refers to justification, which is why we're doing this, and the why should be very important, okay? Because that's really that's going to be what comes down to it when the bottom line is presented. All right, so main reasons when we talked about Personal Trainer Inc., theirs was to support new products and services, but it could be to improve service, right? I saw that over and over again. When I was working and developing new systems, it's that we've been using something for years, and yet it works, but it doesn't work great, right? Or we've added new services, and this just doesn't really meet the need anymore. So we need to improve our service. We need better performance, stronger controls, right, or reduced costs. Okay, so when we talk about fact finding, we're talking about basically an investigation. So someone in this role, an analyst, right, or an IT manager that's being asked to create or develop a new system to meet a need is going to essentially go through these steps. So we've already started by understanding the problem or opportunity by getting to know the business, right? We wrote a business profile, you started to understand what their processes were about, so you're getting a greater understanding of sort of what this thing might encompass, right? Defining the scope and the constraints. So how big of a project is this, right? If you're talking about a legacy system and you're just redesigning or redeveloping just a module of it or a specific piece, that's one thing. But in this case, you're talking about, a build of an entire enterprise system that's going to serve an entire organization. The scope of that is much, much larger and has much larger implications, right? Constraints. What do we mean by constraints? What does that word mean? Does it restrict us in some way? Yes? Okay. So a lot of times, I would see this a lot of times, what if you're building a new system, but that system is still required to interface with older legacy systems? Is that a constraint? Yes. Okay. Because it's a requirement for it to be able to work with or interface with this other program, and so you would certainly need to know of that constraint when you're designing or building a new system to make sure that they're compatible and interoperable. Okay. So some fact-finding activities like you're going to do this week, looking at an organization chart, okay, so understanding, you know, how the organization is laid out, what those different aspects of the organization use in a system, how they use it, and who's going to be doing the different aspects, okay, because we have end users, we have internal users and external users. Let me give you an example like a library, okay, because that's what I'm most familiar with, that's what I come from. Alright, so in a library you have various departments that do different things. We use a tool called an ILS, or an integrated library system, and it's this enormous enterprise piece of technology that supports all of the infrastructure of a library. So one department would use a module of it to receive products, like we'd buy things, and they'd come in, and they'd scan them, right? And what would that do? That would process a transaction, that would take the money out of a budget, right? One individual would need to use that. But another individual, say in cataloging, would have to go in and describe that item. Because when you go to a library, you search for the item, what do you see? Information about the item, right? Okay, so that's a different module of the system. So understanding the organization chart, you may be like, why is that necessary? Well, it's necessary to understand what aspects of the organization are present, right, and how those different aspects of the organization are going to use an information system, because they're going to use it in different ways. And they're going to need different privileges, different access, etc. Reviewing documentation, so that's where you would look at documents like strategic plans that talk about mission and vision and goals. Observing the operations, so you're going to get in and get involved in the day-to-day, right? You're going to sort of float in and out, see how people use it, see what their organization and business processes are like. User surveys, right? You're going to ask people, what are you doing? How do you use a system? What does it do for you? What does it not do for you? That's what I really need to know. What does this not do for you? Where are the bugs? Because when you're building or developing a new system, you would certainly want to address all those things, right? Yeah. So one of the tasks this week is going to ask you to create a questionnaire, pretending as though you were going to deliver a survey, a user survey to individuals that would be using the system. If you haven't looked at the tasks yet, that's one of your tasks, is to develop a user survey. So that would be part of this whole investigation procedure to understand how people intend to use a system so that you can even know how to go about designing it in the first place. Studying usability, cost, benefits, schedules, right? What would something like this cost? How are people going to use it? What are the benefits going to be? How can I use that to sell this to upper management, right? You really need to invest in this because it's going to give you these kind of benefits and it's going to give you this kind of a return on investment, because that's what administrators want to see, right? And where is it going to be good for me, and where is it going to make me money or save me money? And then schedule, right? Because the longer something takes, the more it costs, right? Evaluating feasibility, we're going to look at what feasibility is, whether or not it is doable. Basically, that would be feasibility in a nutshell. Is it doable? And there's different levels of feasibility that we'll look at. And then presenting recommendations to management. So you would essentially, I mean, not that this is like, you know, this do or die path that you would have to go down, but these are some ideas for what you would contribute to or participate in as an analyst or as someone in this role to be able to gather the information you need, right, to present findings to management, to be able to get a decision, yes or no, so that you can move on to design, development, implementation. Okay, you can't touch any of that until you've been able to present a business case and say, yes or no, this is necessary, this is relevant, we can do it, and allow somebody to give you the go. Does that make sense, everybody? All right. There's all kinds of factors that impact development of a new system, internal and external. Okay, so again, a business's strategic plan could be a constraint, right? That might be something that you have to design to. Managers' user requests, existing systems and data, you're running it up against that all the time, right? Legacy systems. External factors, technology, right? People may want something that they don't necessarily have the hardware to support, right? There's development costs, but then there's certainly hardware costs as well, right? Do you even have the infrastructure to support something like this? Suppliers, customers, competitors, the economy, governmental regulations, right? All kinds of factors that affect systems projects that an analyst would be thinking about. Okay, and again, it sort of depends on the scenario. But if you were an analyst asked to come in and develop a system that would allow a medical facility to be able to manage and facilitate patient data, would you need to be aware of government regulations pertaining to that data? Yeah. If you overlooked that, would that be a serious flaw in your ability as an analyst to plan for a system? Yeah. Could you be held legally responsible? Yeah, probably. So all of these things are things to consider. All right, so feasibility. 4 categories: operational, technical, economical, and schedule. So operational, is it practical? Will it solve a problem? Does it take advantage of an opportunity? Here's where your SWOT comes into play, right? So you're going to do that: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you're going to be looking for what benefits a new system can provide to an organization. So that's where operational feasibility comes in. Would this be a good thing for us, right? Would this improve our operations? Technical feasibility is pretty obvious. Can we do this? Right? It's one thing if you're contracting out. This is another thing I ran into all the time. It's one thing if your organization has the money to contract out a project like this. But if Dr. Tansey says to our IT department, we're going to do this, do you think technical feasibility is going to be a major question or concern here? Absolutely. Do we have the resources or the people to do this? Right? You have to have the talent to be able to build something. So are the necessary technical resources available? The people. People are absolutely important because we haven't yet gotten to the point where computers are writing or programs are writing themselves, right? We're still writing computer programs and building these things for the most part. Is the proposal economically desirable? I would challenge someone to deliver a proposal for an organization and expect it to be approved if it did not result in some sort of cost savings, right, or return on investment. So that's definitely going to be an important consideration. Is it economically feasible? What are the savings or costs, right? The cost may be astronomical, but if it results in savings, either in the short term or the long term, if that can be demonstrated, then you could get the go. Right? If it's expensive and it's a question whether or not it's going to save you any money, it's probably going to be denied. I mean, truth be told. Development projects are, what was that?
Has to be a sure thing.
Yeah. Development projects are a very costly thing, typically because the technical skills required to undertake them cost money. Right? Can the proposal be accomplished within an acceptable time frame to schedule flexibility, feasibility? The longer a project extends, what does that result in? More costs. More costs. Does it result in happy end users? No. Okay, so if you can't plan, we're in the planning phase, if you can't plan effectively, right, and you're like, we're going to be done with this by January 2016, and March 2016 rolls around, and they're like, what's the status of the project? And you're like, we're working on it. You know, we encountered these problems and this and this and this. Is that acceptable? No.
Technically, no.
Technically, no. Are you going to get fired or will you be asked to participate in a project like this going forward? Probably not, right? So not that we can always plan to deliver a project within, you know, a specified time schedule all the time, but it's really important, right? Because you're promising something and an administrator is promising something to its stakeholders, whoever this system is going to serve, right? And they've established a certain amount of money that they feel is going to get that project through that schedule. If you're extending the schedule, that's a big problem, okay? So when we talk about quality with a development project, we're talking about total cost, right? Do we stay within the budget? Do we stay within the schedule? And do we reduce defects as much as possible? Do we participate in risk mitigation throughout the project? We'll look at tangible and intangible features in a minute. Here we go. With feasibility, tangible and intangible benefits. Tangible benefits, things you can get your hands on, right? So a new scheduling system that reduces overtime. An online package system that improves service, decreases the need for more staff. More staff equals what? More money. Exactly. Sophisticated inventory control system that cuts excess inventory, limits delays. Excess inventory and delays results in what? More
money being spent.
Money.
And
exactly.
people.
Exactly. And unhappy people. Okay, intangible benefits. Do not underestimate employee job satisfaction.
Oh yeah.
Because people will quit, you'll have a high turnover rate,
In a
and then
heartbeat.
you have to pay for training.
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I saw this in libraries, right?
I want to quit my job.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You, especially an organization that you've got employees that have been there 30, 40 years, right? Your whole upper administration says we need to change in our enterprise software. It's going to happen. People, it's going to be great, right? They get sold on how great a change it's going to be. We're going to do it. They commit to it. The product is developed, et cetera, et cetera. They roll it out. People start using it, and they're like, what?
I'm out.
Right? Utter disappointment. It does not deliver, okay? Even if it saves money from an operational standpoint, if a really crappy information system or piece of software results in across the board dissatisfaction, resulting in loss of employees, hiring people, training people, retaining people costs a lot of money. Was that a benefit for the company in the long term? No. So that's why tangible benefits are a really great thing, but intangible benefits are just as important. All right, better information, better reporting. Reporting is important, right? Every single year when I talked about goals, we have to report out on goals. What did I say happens if you don't meet your goals? You lose your job. You go on a performance plan, right? So reporting is really important. If you have a system that works really well, but it doesn't really give you any kind of reporting functionality, that's really important, because at the end of the year, especially in our economic times, people want statistics, right? They want numbers. If you don't have a system that really facilitates that, then it's lacking in some way. So that would be an intangible benefit that would really be a good thing, right? That would really be a good justification for a project. All right, so when you evaluate feasibility, so you go through all these fact-finding techniques, you gather up this body of data, you're ready, right? That gives you, as an IT manager, right, or as an administrator, the opportunity to weed out certain requests, determine what requests are feasible, and then to set priorities, okay? So in any development project, there will be requirements that are necessary. When we get to that, we call those functional requirements.
Maintenance.
Well, yeah. Functional requirements meaning, though, what we really have to have in order for this piece of software to do its job, in order for us to do our job. So there's functional requirements, but then there's non-functional requirements. And those are the things that would be like really nice to have, right? We can all think of scenarios where we're like, we need this, but it would be really nice to have it do this too, right? It has to do the, we need this. It doesn't necessarily have to do the bells and whistles, right? So when you get down as an analyst and you're planning a project, right, say that it comes down to it, and yes, the project is feasible, yes, it will save money in the long term, yes, we're going to do it. That's when it comes down to setting priorities, okay, to reduce cost, to increase revenue, and to result in better results. So you may end up having to sort of weed out certain requests in order to get down to that base functionality, those functional requirements that we need to really deliver a system that will work, okay? So when you talk about setting up a plan, when you're delivering this document, when you're setting up a plan for how we're going to do this, setting priorities is really important, because it's important to lay out what deliverable someone's going to end up with when it's implementation time, right? If they want this, this, and this, it's important to say, well, based on the schedule you want, and based on the budget you want to stay within, I'm going to tell you what we can do, you know. These are some things that would be nice, but we can't necessarily accommodate all of these things. So a systems analyst would participate in that conversation as well. We talked about this a little bit on Monday, but when you're setting priorities, we said that sometimes we don't have a choice, right? If Joe CEO says do this, then we don't necessarily have, no, granted they have the budget to do it, but when we talk about discretionary and non-discretionary, that's where you have a choice and you don't. You know, some things you have a choice to veto, you have a choice to say, we really can't do this within the schedule and budget fees or budget constraints, but some things you don't, okay? So just be aware of that in the planning process, that some things just have to be accommodated for when setting priorities. Okay, so here, you know, summary again, we're in the planning phase. You guys get that, right? All of this is just sort of preparing for design, development, implementation, maintenance, support, okay? But without all these fact-finding activities, developing this body of documentation that you can use to even move forward with that, you're sort of nowhere, right? You can't really even proceed until you've gone through all of these activities for understanding the organization, what they do, what they need, justifying those needs, and establishing whether or not those needs are feasible, primarily within schedule, technical, within a budget, right? Operational feasibility. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? It all makes sense? Do you kind of see the big picture coming together a little bit?
A little bit.
We see the value of this whole planning phase and how it's a really crucial part of the systems development life cycle. Yeah? Okay. Cool. Good. Good. If it's not, you're free to say like, no. Tell me more. Okay. Your continuing case for this week. If you haven't looked at it, that's cool. You should soon. Again, nothing is due on Monday, but you should have made great progress on these tasks by Monday, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right, task 1, review the fact statements in chapter 1. We understand what it means by fact statements, right? The information you've been able to glean on this organization, Personal Trainer Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Perform internet research to find out as much as you can about fitness center operations. If you do that, which you should, and you use any resources you find on the web, what should you do?
Put in resources.
Put it, exactly. Cite it in your references list in that document. If you don't want to keep up with them there, keep up with them somewhere else, okay? Using this background, conduct a SWOT analysis. Everybody's clear at this point what I mean by a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yes.
Okay, you can present that in whatever manner you choose. It says with at least 3 entries in each area. I'm going to challenge you to try for 5. Okay, try for 5. It shouldn't be hard. Okay. Does the proposed system present a strong business case? Do not just say yes or no. Do not. I want you to establish the business case in your perspective. Establish the business case. Give the reasons, right, why you feel like that justification is present. So the why and the why not is going to encourage you to go well beyond the yes or no. Okay? What fact-finding techniques should Susan and Greg consider? You can refer to this, and I can put this PowerPoint up. It's from the book, you know. These come from the book. But if you want to refer back to this slide, right, you can glean from that what fact-finding techniques you might use in this investigatory phase. Develop a list of questions they should include in an employee survey. Again, don't skimp. Really put your head in it, like immerse yourself. If I were this person and I were going to this organization, what kinds of questions would I ask these people, right? What would I really want to get from them in order to understand what kind of system I'm going to propose that they need?
What matters more, schedule flexibility or higher wages?
Elaborate.
Basically, would someone rather, like, if say we have school and everything, would we prefer to have like a flexible schedule or make more money? If we made more money, means that our schedule will be flexible. We have to do to make money, or do we want to make less money and have a flexible schedule where we can actually request more days off, but have less money capabilities?
So if you're saying you would potentially ask them if they wanted that flexibility in the system?
If they had a choice, what would be more important, or they have other they write it in?
Okay, yeah.
Take consideration.
Yeah, I mean, you can ask very, very pointed questions, but if you wanted to, after each question, have a section that says elaborate, please explain, right? If you were hoping to glean some kind of information other than what they might initially report. For each type of feasibility, again, there are 4. Not that one. Operational, technical, economic, schedule. Include those in your report, right? If you want to be real nice, you can include a basic description. You know, operational feasibility is. Economic feasibility is. And this is how, you know. Suggest 2 questions that will help Susan reach a determination. Okay? So you're defining those different types of feasibility, and you're including suggestions for how Susan can determine whether or not this proposed project meets those qualifications for feasibility. Right? Everybody feel good about that? Alright. I get these like deer in headlights like stare.
I know, I understand it, but I don't understand it.
Okay. As with
I know
all
what you
things-
want, but it's more like, I'm gonna give you what you want, but I need to figure out how I'm gonna transfer that into the actual.
And that's why I
project.
said, oh, let me tell you, I'm gonna do this too. That's why I said if at any point you wanna send me something and say, please review, and I will either say, this is sufficient, you need more here, or I will say, this is sad, begin again. One of those three responses you will get. What I'm gonna do though is, I think, I have a lot of people that are just kinda like, I'm doing this, but I don't really know if it's what you want, and I don't know if this will be helpful, but I'm gonna put it out there in case it is. I'm gonna do the chapter 1 case study on my own as if I were the person doing it at the level of completeness and reporting that I would expect to see, and perhaps you can use that and compare it to your own to say, you know, do these look similar? Is the level of effort and reporting that I see here present in my project? And you can sort of superimpose that to the ones, you know, that will be assigned for the remainder of the semester. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Okay.
I feel like once we get started on it.
You will. As in all things that tend to like feel like this mountain, once you get started, it's not that big, you know, it's not as scary as we all think that it may be. Okay, so go ahead and get started. You can take the rest of the period today. What time is it? We only have 12 minutes, 14 minutes. But, you know, get started, ask questions. I'm happy to help. You know where to find me if you need me outside of our class period today. Well, excuse me, start chapter 3 on Monday. So, you know, we're just going to keep on keeping on.
Now, you mentioned in your example, case
Uh-huh.
or whatever.
And I don't have that done yet.
I'm just curious as to, you know, if we could get that within the next couple of weeks or something.
I'm hoping to within the next couple of days.
I'm just gonna, I'm kinda wanting to lean on that.
Okay.
I feel like I need to know how far to get this, although I'm willing to go.
But you're going to.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Like I said, I had hoped to have it ready by today, but I just didn't have a chance to do that. So I will aim to have it finished by Friday.
You're gonna be
Realistically.
posting this
I
by.
didn't know.
I can if you like me to. You want me to post them on a blackboard? Okay.
It's irrelevant,
Definitely do
Dorsey.
that. You good?
Yep.
Right. This thing did not work.
It did not work.